Welcome to Hearthing. I'm ShadowBlue13, and I'm going to be reviewing the Paladin class cards for the Boomsday project, the newest expansion coming up for Hearthstone on, what is it, August, I believe the 7th, which is pretty soon, so I better get this up really quick, otherwise it's going to be useless. I'm saying this after I reviewed half the classes already. Okay, we're going to begin with the 1-mana Auto Defense Matrix, the Paladin's Secret now. When one of your minions is attacked, give it Divine Shield. So the first comparison we have to draw to this is whether or not it's better than Noble Sacrifice. And the first few times I tried to record this, I kept calling it Get Down, and I didn't remember the name Noble Sacrifice. But now we know, and now I can call it Get Down from now on. Okay, cool. So is it better than that? Well, notably, this cannot protect your face. If your opponent is just going for your face and not attacking your minions, it has zero value. It's not going to trigger, right? Beyond that, well, odds are one of your minions could have more than 2 attack, and it will survive. You could play it as a thing just to save one of your minions, but you're already doing that with Noble Sacrifice. What else can you use this with? Not a whole lot. Like, there's not a whole lot of Divine Shield synergy. There's Bolvar. No one runs Bolvar. And there's the weird shadowy sword thing that gets buffed when you get rid of Divine Shield. No one's going to do that either. So, would you run 4 Noble Sacs in your deck if you could? And if they didn't always trigger on your face? I don't think so. A Noble Sac doesn't really see a whole lot of play as it is, so I don't think this is really worth the trouble. Next up, we have the 1-mana 1/3 Glowtron. It's a magnetic mech. And you know what? I think it's a darn good card. I think that at 1/3, it's static to survive, and it has magnetic, which means, well, okay, so you can't take something not magnetic and put it on this. However, it's a mech. So odds are you're going to be running other magnetic things. You can play another Glowtron on it if you want to. On turn 2, or even turn 1 with the coin, you can have a 2/6. Turn 1, 2/6. That's really good. And it's not all that uncommon to happen, to be honest. Let's see now. Beyond that, if you play it later, you just give us something of magnetic, a 1/3 buff. I think a 1-mana 1/3 in Paladin with this mech thing and things, I think it's going to go places. I like this card. Oh, this is a tricky one now. The 5-mana Mechano Egg. 0/5. Like all the eggs are. Mech, Death Rattle summon an 8/8 Robosaur. For the record, here's the Robosaur. It's pretty cool looking. It actually reminds me a lot of Power Rangers. I think there was like a thing where the Red Ranger got like a dinosaur. They were all dinosaurs. And this just reminds me of that one. It might not even look at all like it, but I think it's kind of cool. And importantly, it's a mech, somewhat obvious, but you can't take things for granted now. Alright. So let's see here. So it's a Death Rattle, summon an 8/8 Robosaur. Well, this immediately can curve into Spike Ridge Steed, which gives it the taunt, it lets you summon 2 dudes afterwards, and it gives you the ability to attack with it. For that reason alone, I think this card is going to see some play. However, if you consider, I believe it was called the Skelemancer, which also did pretty well with Spike Ridge Steed, and gave you an 8/8 at the end, or was it a 7/7? It was very similar cost of minion. But it had lower stats. It was a 2/2, I think, instead of a 0/5. And that never really got off the ground. A few people tried it. It was good for like a couple days, and then the people were like, the hype was over. So is this better? Well, you're getting a mech at the end. This itself is a mech, so you can magnetize it as well, just to get it to attack. So I think this can actually see play if you are running some sort of mech Paladin deck. Even if you're just running Spike Ridge Steed, and maybe just Spike Ridge Steed and Glowtron. I think this card fits in the deck pretty well. I like it. It could be pretty scary too. Alright, there's the Robosaur, like I mentioned. Alright, 4-mana, 2/4 Annoyo Module. It is a magnetic Divine Shield Taunt mech, which, of course, if you consider this is 2 Annoyotrons, the 2-mana 1/2 Divine Shield Taunts, smushed together. A lot of people complain that, well, they should have just had them 2 Annoyotrons next to each other or something. But let's see now. Is this that much better? Is this considerable? I don't like this card. I don't like it. Going into the magnetic, you can give something else Divine Shield and Taunt, make it super obnoxious and kind of sticky. For that reason, it's nice, but beyond that, if you're playing it alone, I don't like it very much. I think I'd rather just have the 2-mana Annoytron instead of the Annoy module, because Divine Shield is kind of like, okay, you're going to get 1 damage. You're going to mitigate 1 damage. Alright, fine. And then it's a 2/4 Taunt, which isn't terrible for 4 mana, given what you're getting for it, but I just think it's nothing really fantastic. I don't think it's going to save you in too many cases. You can't just happen to have 4 mana left over at the end of the turn most times. 2 mana, sure. 4 mana, not so much. For that reason, not a big fan. But unless you manage to find something to really stick this onto, it's not going to see much play. Crystology. Now, this is a card that took a little bit of research, a little bit of getting into to figure out the best thing to do with it, or to figure out how to review it. It's a 2-mana spell. Draw 2 1-attack minions from your deck. 2 1-attack minions, not 1-cost minions. So there was that spell a while ago, I think it was called Small Time Recruits, that got you 3, I think it was 2 or 3, 1-cost minions from your deck to your hand. And people thought, oh, this is great. It wasn't very good. People actually didn't stop. People stopped running it pretty quickly. However, with the Crystology, there's a few things that I want to mention here that you can get. I think it's a very flexible card. You can put this in different decks, oddly enough. And let's go over a few of them right now. So, for Crystology, if you're running Even Paladin, you can pull out your Drygulch Jailer, which a lot of Even Paladins, I believe, do like, and for a while, Even Paladin was considered to be the stronger Paladin. If you're not running Even Paladin, you can still get Righteous Protector, which is nice. You can get Glowtron, which I think is really nice. And after that, you're going on to 3 mana maybe, and you could do Glowtron onto something else, or just double Glowtron. Even 3 mana 2/6 isn't bad. You can pull a couple of Murlocs. In particular, you can pull the Grimskill Oracle, which is the one that gives all your Murlocs +1 attack. I don't think Murloc Paladin is going to be suddenly better because of this card, but just something of note. As well as the Murloc Tidecaller. And now something that's really nice, you can pull Tar Creepers, which are 3 mana, obviously the 3 mana 1/5 taunt minion, and then on your opponent's turn it gets +2 attack. And it curves into this really well. So if you're running a slower deck, you could run Crystology, pull these cards out of your deck that you necessarily don't want to draw super in the late game, but even if you get a Tar Creeper later, it's usually not bad. And I wrote down Voodoo Doll. There's not a whole lot of ways that Paladin can trigger Voodoo Doll effectively, but you can pull it with this deck if you're running some kind of strange control thing, if that's what you want to do. Because of that, I think Crystology is a great card. From a design standpoint, I think it's fantastic that it enables these different types of decks, or at least it is support for different things. It's a very good design space. And I think it's going to see some play. I really do. What I don't think is going to see any play is Shrink Ray. Remember Eadric, whatever, who had this effect only going for your opponent's minions, I believe? Or did it set I think it might have set all the minions' attacks to 1. I don't remember because it never really saw much play. It was supposed to be, oh, this is a great control thing, and it's going to slow your opponent down. The most they're going to be able to do is 7 damage in a turn, but you're going to probably have some taunt, and it's going to slow them down so much you're going to win the game. Well, I see this as an extra equality that costs 5. Let's go over the card real quick, because I just kind of didn't even talk about it. 5 mana Shrink Ray, set the attack and health of all minions to 1. All minions. Not just your opponent's minions, all of them. So your guys are going to become 1/1s. Your opponent's guys are going to become 1/1s. For 5 mana, though. Sure, you could play this with Pyro to get an extra Pyro equality, but I don't really think you're going to want to play a 5 mana, what's basically equality. I don't see how this is very much worth anything. I think this is a bad card. I don't think it's going to see any play. Alright, 4 mana Prismatic Lens. Another one that involves some kind of theory crafting, some kind of mind-boggling. Let's go over the effect first. Draw a minion and spell from your deck, and you swap their costs. So, there are really 2 ways to utilize this effect. You either have a lot of cheap spells and a few big minions, or a lot of cheap minions and a few big spells. So let's go over the first case where you have cheap spells and big minions. Well, sure, Paladin has plenty of cheap spells. They're called secrets, and they all cost 1 mana. So what kind of minion would you want to reduce to 1, and then basically never play the secret, because you're not going to play an 8 mana secret. Probably not. So what could you do? Well, Tyrion would be amazing at 1 mana. Pretty much anything big at 1 mana is insane. And the fact that you're pulling them out of your deck is kind of nice. Notably, you could pull another Prismatic Lens if you're running that kind of turbo deck, or you're running a dedicated deck to this effect. However, it's going to be unlikely, and even if you reduce, an 8, 9, 10 mana card to 7 mana creature to 7 mana? To 7? Why am I saying 7? A higher costed minion to 4 mana, rather, then it's still a pretty good card. And you get the other Prismatic Lens to get another effect going off. You could get a really cheap Alexstrasza and just suddenly have a way to deal 15 damage, or have a clutch heal if you need to. So I think this is good when you play the small smell big minion. What if you play it the other way around? Okay, so you're playing small minions and big spells. It can also see some play. You're playing little dudes. You're kind of swarming the board with the little guys there, and then you play this thing, and you get a 1, maybe 2 mana Dino size, and you play. Suddenly, this thing's a 10/10. Wow, that's not too bad. Maybe you use that to get lay on hands to refill your hand a little more for nearly nothing, and you get a heal off of it. I like this card. It's very tricky to kind of evaluate, I believe, but I think it's going to see some pretty good play. Next up, we have the 6 mana 3/4 Glowstone Technician. Battlecry, give all minions in your hand +2/+2. We're going to hand buff now. This is weird. We haven't seen hand buff Paladin really do too much recently. So this reminds me back to when you had Mean Treats of Gadget Zan, and there was the, I don't exactly remember the card because it's been a little while, but there was the one where there was a spell, 1 mana spell, give all the minions in your hand +1/+1. And then there was the minion that at the end of your turn, give all the minions in your hand +1/+1. Those saw some play. Absolutely, this spell did. And the minions saw a little bit there. It wasn't seen as often, maybe because the thing would probably either kill you or concede before they get to play the card. But what about give all your minions in your hand +2/+2? The fact that it's on turn 6, I think, ruins this card. The stats are bad for 6 mana, and you're trying to buff things. I mean, unless you're trying to run this into, geez, what, like maybe a doppelgangster? Or maybe you're running with this into some other copy of thing. You can use it with Serenite Chain Gang, I guess. But on 6 mana, how many minions are you going to still have in your hand? And if you're running bigger minions, they should be big enough. They shouldn't need the +2/+2. If you buff Tyrion, that's great. You didn't need to do that. You really didn't need to. If you buff Alexstrasza, unnecessary. And you're losing so much tempo from playing this card on turn 6. Then there's really no huge thing you can do with play this on turn 6 plus the minion you buffed. Well, it's going to be a 4 or less mana minion. It's not going to be all that great. So for that reason, I do not like this card. Talking about cards I don't like. Your Paladin, you're not really doing it for me right now. 2 mana, 1/2, legendary, Crystal Smith Kangor, Divine Shield, Lifesteal, and your healing is doubled. There is no tribe on this. It is not an elemental. It is not a mech. It's just a dude. So this reminds me of Wicker Flame Burn Bristle, who was it 2 or 3 mana 2/2 Taunt, Divine Shield, Lifesteal. The fact that it had Taunt was very nice. This has a 1 attack and Lifesteal. If you attack with it, you heal for 2 because it's doubled. That's useless. Granted, it's 2 mana, so you could play it in conjunction with something. Maybe you play it right next to Holy Light. No, you're not gonna play it. Holy Light's a bad card. Paladin healing, the only time Paladin healing was really significant was when you had the Forbidden Healing, I believe is what it was called, in Whispers of the Old Gods, where you use up all your mana cost, all your mana crystals, and you healed for double the amount of mana crystals used. That was pretty good. This is pretty bad. I don't see this seeing any play at all. It's terrible as a 2 mana 1/2. And the fact that it has Divine Shield, there's no taunt to it, so it's not even doing anything with that. Ugh, no. Get it out of here. Get out of here, Kangor. What did you come up with? An endless army? Oh, no. Alright, 7 mana. Resurrect 3 friendly mechs. They keep any magnetic upgrades. So this is interesting. It's another iteration of buffs persisting, like we've seen with Kingsbane, but of course this is minions now. So how is this going to compare? Not compare, but how is this going to stack up, really? Which is analogous, which is very similar to comparing. Okay. How do I review this card? Well, resurrect 3 friendly mechs. What if they didn't have magnetic upgrades necessarily? Well, if you played the egg, and then the dinosaur died, you could get both of those back. You could end up getting Glowtron if you played it early on, so you don't want to play those little things, unless you're magnetizing them, so you want to play big mechs, or the egg is a notable exception there. But beyond that, I don't think this is going to be great. I mean, you can get a Zilliax with it, but you really want to magnetize Zilliax onto something else. So for 7 mana, I don't think it's really that great. It's kind of like anything but can happen, but I checked, there are no mechs that have charge. Some of them have rush, no charge. This is not a finisher kind of card. This is a card where you play it, get a few more creatures on the board, and then hopefully the turn afterwards you can make some use of that tempo, but I don't think it's worth it. So unfortunately, Paladin, I think it's kind of a short end of a stick, but gets some really interesting cards in the form of Prismatic Lens and Crystology. So that is my review for the Paladin cards. Thank you very much. Next up, we're going to have the Priest cards. please, if you're interested in priests, take a look at that video. If not, thank you very much again. This has been Hearthing. Good night or good morning, and as always, good luck.